Stick this in your ear.
The number one internet shock radio network.
Shock me with that deviant behavior.
Renegade Talk Radio.
President Trump spoke very highly of Bitcoin this year before the election.
If crypto is going to define the future, I want to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. It's going to be. It's not going to be made anywhere else. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon, I want America to be the nation that leads the way. And that's what's going to happen.
Nobody has been able to identify the source of the Bitcoin algorithm. It was originally published in a white paper on Halloween of 2008. Just as the economy was crashing, Bitcoin was put into practice by its own users, who proceeded to get insanely rich and spread the word of cryptocurrency. But the true origin of cryptocurrency can be found in the early days of Silicon Valley with the CIA, Mossad, and their pedophile blackmail operations, managing the operation from the start. In 1997, the NSA published How to Make a Mint, the Cryptography of Anonymous Electronic Cash. Ripple was formed in 2004 by a member of the INSA and a descendant of one of the most powerful banking families of Europe. 4 years later, in 2008, the banks crash and the Bitcoin white paper is introduced to the public. 4 years after that, in 2012, Ripple XRP is released to the public, and today it is being considered for its new stablecoin. Stablecoins, such as Ripple's RLUSD, are digital versions of fiat currencies. While Bitcoin may arguably be a decentralized currency, stablecoins can be programmed and tracked as easy as any CBDC can. It's the same thing, just a different name. And it appears as if this is the direction the Trump administration will be going. Who needs a central bank when you have BlackRock? Preparations for a cashless society go back for well over a century. It was once considered to be the biggest threat in America. But now, people will be happy enough to just get the men out of the girls' bathroom. Based on the team surrounding Trump 47 so far, it is clear that nobody in power is resisting the AI world being built around us. Peter Thiel, who is clearly a proxy of the CIA, has not only pioneered digital money, he is the front man for Palantir, which was funded by the CIA. Palantir is a technology that is now being used in predicting who will commit a crime. It has access to everyone's private devices and is used by both military and police.
Next, our commander wants to disrupt enemy communications. This will allow ground forces to more safely maneuver and help ensure that enemy equipment stays in position. AIP automatically identifies and pairs all of the validated enemy communication nodes with a disruption capability. Assign jammers to each of the validated high-priority communications targets. An electronic warfare specialist initiates the jamming operation. Initiate jamming operation. AIP confirms the jamming order has been initiated. With enemy communication disrupted, our ground forces are cleared to move into position and destroy the enemy equipment.
It has also been revealed recently that data harvested from the game Pokemon has been used to train artificial intelligence to achieve spatial intelligence.
You can sneak around them or you can get them really close. Getting closer makes it a bit easier to get those great or excellent throws with your Pokeball, but if you move too fast, the Pokemon are going to get scared and they're going to bolt off. If you can get close enough without spooking them, Expert Handler mode kicks in, giving you a small catch rate bonus along with some extra XP and Stardust at the end.
So that robots can better navigate in the real world. Robot security dogs, such as the ones now being used at Mar-a-Lago by the Secret Service. Robots that are capable of firing rifles. The world sits on the edge of the AI world cashless society, and there are no leaders putting on the brakes. Reporting for InfoWars, this is Greg Reese.
It's Thursday, December 5th in the year of our Lord 2024. And you're listening to the American Journal with your host, Harrison Smith. Watch it live right now at band.video.
I think it's time to blow this thing. Get everybody in the stuff together. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's jam.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the American Journal. I'm your host, Harrison Smith. Coming to you live on this Thursday morning. Infowars.com, band.video. I gotta admit, I slept through my alarm this morning because I stayed up late last night. I found a really good book. Somebody suggested this book on X, and I kind of can't stop thinking about it, and I couldn't stop reading it last night. It's called Debunking Howard Zinn, I think. Let me make sure that's exactly it. Debunking Howard Zinn, Exposing the Fake History That Turned a Generation Against America by Mary Grabber. And it's free right now on Audible. If you have Audible, you can get it for free. And when I say read, I do mean listen to. I listened to the book for like 3 hours yesterday. It's crazy. It's crazy. It lays out just the various stages of demoralization and basically communist infiltration into our society. It's really astonishing. I'm pretty convinced Howard Zinn is a literal demon. I'm pretty sure he's a literal demon. Because it's like to be able to tirelessly commit evil. It's almost supernatural, his capability. It's really wild. In case you don't know, Howard Zinn is the guy that wrote The People's History of the United States. It basically laid the groundwork for what was the New York Times 1619 Project. The conception of history, as commonly held now, of being basically just a litany of how evil white people are. And the whole book starts off with describing Columbus as genocidal by basically completely ignoring all the countervailing evidence. It's absolutely fascinating. If you're looking for a history of America being undone from the inside over the last century or so, I suggest checking out Debunking Howard Zinn. It starts off with with sort of his biography, and it sounds like you're reading the diary of a demon. It's wild. It truly is. So I'm going to try not to just talk about that all day, even though it does tie into pretty much everything else that we're talking about. We have a lot of news. We're going to get into some discussion of the assassination that took place last night, or yesterday morning, I guess it was. The shooting death of the CEO of United Healthcare. I'm getting some different interpretations. It's all speculation at this point. And I think in one way or another, like sort of no matter what the truth about this killing is, it represents a watershed moment. Now, whether that's just America's descent into being a third world nation, I'm can't help but think back to something like, I don't know, Sandy Hook or something like that, where the first time something like this happens, it's huge news. The coverage goes on for days. There's the front page headline, New York Post, executed on 54th Street. I mean, this guy was the CEO of one of the largest, if not the largest insurance company in America. Huge power this guy has. I mean, just massively important individual as the CEO of this healthcare company. Yeah, apparently there's a message left on the bullet casings that were left on the scene. We'll get into it. We'll look into the forensic evidence that we have, as well as the citizen journalism that has brought about some pretty interesting information. But, I can't help but think that it could be pretty quick. It could be 3 years from now. This type of killing will be on like the 5th page. It'll just be a little note. It'll be like, yes, and another CEO was gunned down on the street the other day. It looked like it was a masked, possibly professional assassin, got away on a scooter, never to be seen again. Sports on page 5, right? I have the feeling that America could get used to this really, really quickly. That's not a good thing, by the way. I'm not saying it would be a good thing if CEOs are being assassinated. I'm saying look at Mexico. I'm saying look at other countries south of our border. Like the election season in Mexico, where I think last time it was something like 200 something candidates for office were murdered. It's just a regular thing. Daylight, assassinations, gunmen rolling up on a scooter, shooting the political opponent or the CEO or the police chief, whoever it is, just shooting them in the head and driving off, and they never get found. Or if they do, it's just some thug that got paid and didn't even know who he was killing. So, maybe this is a watershed moment in that it's the first time and it's shocking and it's unique, but maybe it'll happen again in 6 months and then 3 months after that and then 2 months after that. And then it'll happen like weekly and it'll just be a regular thing and we'll just be a third world country where people are just solve their problems by killing each other more so than they do now. Could be a watershed moment in that regard. There's some speculation that this was maybe somebody that was on this insurance, and maybe got screwed over by them, had some of their coverage denied, something like that. I know I've I think we've all probably been in a position, increasingly common, of trying to deal with the just totally inhuman mechanical facade of a giant corporation and just becoming incredibly frustrated and thinking, gee, I wonder who their CEO is and how good his security is. I don't think you're human if you haven't had thoughts like that run through your head. Is this somebody actually fulfilling those deep, dark desires? Or is it a professional hit? Because it seems like it was so brazen and done out in the open so much. It almost seems to me like a warning or a message. Like, yeah, we could have shot him in an alley, but we shot him on the sidewalk in broad daylight in front of cameras, just so you know we can get to you whenever. Who that message is for and who would be sending it, I don't really know. One thing I do know is if you want to start looking into suspicious murder cases, Big Pharma crops up pretty regularly. In fact, I want to revisit an old case out of California where it's this crazy case where it was like this guy's son was like thrown off a balcony, but he survived. And there was a note that was written that was like, "You're next." And the whole thing was like, oh, but it was just an accident. He just fell down the stairs. And then like the next day, the kid's nanny hangs herself, but her hands are tied behind her back. And the whole thing is just like, yep, it was a suicide. And it had nothing to do with the kid falling down the stairs and the note that said "You're next." All of those are unrelated. And it was just a series of bad accidents. Sorry. And you look into it and you're like, okay, this guy was like the head of a pharmaceutical company. He was making billion-dollar deals. Maybe it's worth billions of dollars for somebody to put out a hit on somebody. The point is, when you're talking about things like pharmaceutical companies or the medical industry or insurance, you are talking about people making decisions worth billions of dollars. And if you ever watch true crime, people will kill each other over a couple thousand. You don't think CEOs or executives or intelligence agencies wouldn't do away with an inconvenient barrier to their plans if it's worth billions of dollars? I think they would. So we're going to look into that. We're going to do some investigation into that assassination yesterday, because I think one way or another, random shooting, targeted assassination, professional, amateur, whatever, it represents a watershed moment. And the reaction represents a watershed moment, as the best and quickest information about this came from totally amateur people on X. I think it was Clint from Liberty Lockdown yesterday, who was like, yeah, I didn't understand what Elon Musk meant when he said "you are the media." Now I get it, because it's true. Decentralized human intelligence networks just operating independently with access to the tools and technology can do better investigations than, multi-billion-dollar mainstream media outlets. It's all very interesting, all very intriguing. We'll get into that and so much more. We'll be joined in the second hour in studio by Chase Geiser. Just been a while since we had him on the show, and I thought he'd come on. Maybe we'll take calls. Maybe we'll just talk about some of these news stories. I will be taking your calls throughout the third hour, and then after the show today, we'll be doing a pre-recorded interview with Cliff High that will be airing on Friday tomorrow. So very excited to talk to him, but you're going to have to wait. Or maybe we'll upload it. Maybe we'll upload it after the show today. Give you a sneak peek on band.video and Infowars.com before we air it live tomorrow morning. Regardless, let's just get into it the way we do every day with your Daily Dispatch. All right, here it is, folks, your Daily Dispatch for Thursday, the 5th of December, 2024. French government falls as Prime Minister Barnier loses confidence vote. What seemed like a foregone conclusion is now confirmed. French PM Barnier just lost a no confidence vote with 331 votes to 288, forcing his government's resignation and Macron to appoint a new premier. The debate before the vote was lively with RN's, that's the right-wing party in France, Le Pen, blasting Barnier's budget and making it clear he was dead in the water, saying, quote, "It's the end of this ephemeral government." Much of her comments are focused on taxes in Barnier's budget, saying it's all about taxes, taxes, and more taxes. Where's the money? The French want to know. So France in total political turmoil right now. It looks like Le Pen is trying to make hay out of that. Meanwhile, Syrian rebels capture key city of Hama in fresh blow to Assad. Syrian rebels pushing south after capturing Aleppo. They have staged a rapid advance in the past weeks. Hama is, H-A-M-A, is critical to control of major towns. Return to civil war risks destabilizing wider region. So the Syrian rebels have continued their march, have now captured that slightly more southern city, Hama, close to the Lebanese border. It was in the government hands throughout the civil war, triggered in 2011. And it will send shockwaves through Damascus and fears of a continued rebel march south. So again, this continues to complicate and exacerbate the very uncertain situation there in Syria, but it doesn't appear as though they're successfully withholding the rebel advance. This from Post Millennial broke yesterday. I got to admit, I'm a little suspicious of this, but it's being reported all over the place, so we can at least entertain the fact it might be true. Biden White House considers preemptive pardons for Fauci, Liz Cheney, and Adam Schiff. President Joe Biden's administration is reportedly debating the possibility of issuing preemptive pardons to current and former public officials who could be targeted when President-elect Donald Trump takes office. No, I didn't realize you could do that. Preemptive pardons. Is it a punch card? Are they tickets? Do they have a golden ticket? Are you giving them a license to kill like 007? What is a preemptive pardon exactly? A pardon is when somebody's guilty and then you pardon them. You say it's okay, we're just going to forget this ever happened. You're telling me that you can just go, hey, you're never going to be allowed to charge these people, no matter what crimes they have or will commit. I mean, this is a little bit bonkers, I have to say. According to a report by Politico, Biden's senior aides are concerned about officials who could face inquiries or even indictments under a Trump presidency. These concerns have also been motivated by Trump's announcement that Kash Patel would lead the FBI during his administration. Yeah, I bet Trump feels stupid now. I bet he feels stupid after going through 4 years of relentless legal attacks, lawfare against him. He probably wishes he would have known back in 2020. Could have just gone, oh, by the way, I preemptively pardoned myself for everything. So good luck. I mean, come on. There's no way this is how the law is actually supposed to work. It's insane. It's also hilarious who they choose. Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, and Anthony Fauci. Of course, as we've been covering this week with the revelation of the final report of the coronavirus pandemic committee in Congress, Anthony Fauci is, in fact, guilty of mass murder. So it'd be a weird thing to pardon him for. Crimes against humanity. No. We're going to have a Nuremberg 2 trial, and your pardons will be nothing. Meanwhile, Manhunt for United Health CEO shooting suspect enters second day as Starbucks visit draws scrutiny. The manhunt for United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson's alleged assassin continues for a second day on Thursday as the suspected gunman's Starbucks visit draws scrutiny. The New York City Police Department has released surveillance images of the alleged killer, seen in a dark-colored jacket, his hood drawn, and the lower portion of his face covered while inside an undisclosed Starbucks location. Thompson was gunned down from behind just after 6:45 a.m. Wednesday outside the Hilton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan, which was later that day set to host United Healthcare's annual investors conference. Investigators are also examining a cup recovered from the trash at a Starbucks near the shooting scene, looking for touch DNA there. The video has been released. You can see the guy get shot. We will break that down for you, forensically analyze it, as well as show you some analysis from professionals in this field. And finally, it looks like the hubbub in South Korea has largely calmed down, which is crazy. South Korean police investigating President Yoon Suk-yeol for insurrection. South Korean police are now investigating the president that declared martial law over insurrection for that declaration of martial law. Military officials have been questioned by MPs. It's becoming clear how few knew about the plan, with the vice defense minister saying he learned about it on the news. And it just goes to show you, if you're going to declare martial law, you got to stick to it. You got to have some stick-to-itiveness. You got to not give up after 10 hours, because then they're going to throw you in jail for life for insurrection. So it just seems crazy to me. Who declares martial law without like a plan in place? Without a long-term strategy behind it? You declare martial law, you reverse it like 3 hours later, and then they arrest you for insurrection. Like, what are you doing? What are you doing? A lesson there to be learned. Incredible. Also, let's just tag this on the Daily Dispatch. Muhammad is now the top baby name in the UK in the year 2023. Muhammad has become the most popular name for baby boys in England and Wales, surpassing Noah, according to the Office for National Statistics. The shift marks a continuation of the name's popularity. Yeah, the name is just so popular. No, it's just like, it's like how, when Friends was popular, the name Rachel got popular. It's kind of like that. Muhammad, it's just such a popular baby name. Or it's because the people of Europe are being slow motion genocided by Muslims. And that actually is it. The other twist of this is that there's like 5 different spellings of Muhammad, and the statistics offices always rank them differently. When if you just, if you spelled them all the same, they would have been the top name years and years ago. Because they're conquering the island nation, and there's no sign of slowing down. Incredible, isn't it? Horrible. I mean, it's horrible. Absolutely horrible. And symbolic almost. Noah being replaced by Muhammad. Wild. I want to remind you folks, go to thealexjonesstore.com to support us here at InfoWars. No matter what comes next, no matter what happens on the 9th, 4 days from now, our next court date, we will continue on one way or another. And I hope that you can support us in this mission, whether it's under InfoWars or some other organization. TheAlexJonesStore.com is the way to either repair and relaunch this battleship of information or build the escape pod, some newer and better outlet later on. Meanwhile, I didn't realize this was trending. This is trending at the top of X. Kyle Rittenhouse revisiting the polarization post-acquittal. Kyle Rittenhouse, acquitted in 2021 for charges related to the shooting of 2 men during the Kenosha protest, remains a polarizing figure. Recent discussions on social media have revisited his case, with posts varying from those who view him as an American hero acting in self-defense to others who label him negatively. Legal experts had highlighted that his acquittal was based on the self-defense argument, and the trial involved extensive video evidence. And the first I saw of this was Captive Dreamer 7 on X, saying it was extremely unpopular to support Kyle Rittenhouse in 2021. I barely remember any major conservative pundits sticking their necks out to support him. He says it was me, Mystery Grove, and some friends. Massive cultural and political shift since then. Now, he's right about the massive cultural and political shift. What he's wrong about is everything else. And I went through the archives. I dug back in. It wasn't hard because I knew exactly where it was. To find the video of the War Room episode the day after Kyle Rittenhouse shot those pedophiles. And I just want to point out, this guy's saying it was unpopular in 2021 to talk about Kyle Rittenhouse. It was just me and my friends. Meanwhile, in reality, before 2021, in 2020, on August 26th, 2020, I went on the War Room with Owen Schroyer. We broke down the shooting in a second-by-second basis and determined beyond any shadow of a doubt that it was self-defense and Kyle Rittenhouse, or as we kept calling him, Ritterhouse. We didn't even know his name at that point. It was 15 hours after the shooting actually took place. The shooting took place a little bit before midnight. I watched it live, captured all the videos, went through them with a fine-tooth comb, compiled them, slept about 3 hours, and then went on the War Room and broke it down with Owen in minute detail. And then we had to wait another year and a half for the trial to happen and for, the glorious not guilty verdict to come through. I just want to point out, even the people that think they're on the cusp, even the people that are like, everybody else was afraid to stick their necks out, we're over here at InfoWars, like our neck, our body, our whole being is out already. Forget sticking your neck out. We are out. We are out the window. We are out in the danger zone. We are unafraid to take even the most contentious sides of arguments when we know that we're right because we have evidence right in front of our eyes. And it's funny, this is trending on the top of Twitter. I thought this would just be a one-off thing, but apparently people have picked this up and are talking about it. And I think it's not just a time to brag a little bit about being the quickest draw west of the Mississippi. You literally will not find an outlet that more quickly and accurately identified what happened during the Rittenhouse shooting. But we'll continue to do that into the future, unhesitatingly telling you the truth, regardless of what the mass media or anybody else wants you to think about it. And I always think back to after Rittenhouse was declared not guilty, and those people going, yeah, the left and right, they both just decided they were on one side or the other, and they just chose whether guilty or not guilty based on their political leanings. Like, no, 12 hours after the Rittenhouse shooting, we went through second by second proving our side was right. Don't act like this is a political stance we're taking. It just has political implications because we're right, and we always are.
I talk a lot about the great successes InfoWars has had. I don't think anybody can deny it. And it is because of listeners and viewers supporting us. But when we talk about the crew at InfoWars, people behind the scenes, the researchers, the writers, they really have been the MVPs in this fight. And when we look at Harrison Smith and Owen Schroyer and the hard work they engage in every day, 5, 6, 7 days a week, it's really just incredible. So for myself and the whole InfoWars crew, I thank you for your past support. And I want to encourage you now to realize that InfoWars cannot stay on air if you do not support us. I know you spread the word. I know you pray for us, and that's wonderful. Keep doing it. But most viewers and listeners never go to InfoWarsStore.com, and you never buy great products that enrich and empower your life while at the same time keep us on air. I know that less than 1% of our listeners actually go buy products at InfoWarsStore.com. If just 1% more of you took action and went to InfoWarsStore.com, our funding problems will be over. Please take action now.
InfoWars.com is tomorrow's news today.
You're tuned in to the American Journal with your host, Harrison Smith. Watch it live right now at band.video.
Welcome back, folks. This is the American Journal. Let's talk about this assassination in broad daylight on the streets of Manhattan. United Health CEO was shot first in the back and then in the chest. The video's been released, a security video that caught the whole thing. The manhunt is underway, has entered its second day. CEO Brian Thompson's alleged assassin continues for a second day on Thursday as the suspected gunman's Starbucks visit draws scrutiny. NYPD has released surveillance images of the alleged killer seen in a dark-colored jacket with his hood drawn and lower portion of his face covered while inside an undisclosed Starbucks location. Thompson was gunned down from behind just after 6:45 a.m. Wednesday outside the Hilton Hotel in Midtown Manhattan, which was later that day set to host United Healthcare's annual investors conference. Investigators are also examining a cup recovered from the trash at a Starbucks near the shooting scene. They're saying this was a premeditated, pre-planned, and targeted attack. I think that's clear just from the video itself. You can see the guy was waiting. He was clearly decked out like a professional assassin, face covered, awaiting this moment to clearly shoot this particular individual. I think a lot of people that saw it first had the impression that it was a professional hit. I had the same. Although I admit I was a bit confused, and I should have mentioned it yesterday because we broke the news here on the show and talked about the guy using a bike to get away. And usually with a professional assassination, you'd have a getaway driver. And it's kind of weird to use a bike, especially in New York City. If you're going to be like waiting, like loitering outside of a hotel, waiting for somebody to come in, you're not going to like stash a bike in the alley and just think it's like hope it's going to be there after you kill the guy, right? That's not very professional planning. That would never fly with the Assassin's Guild, I don't think. But you also don't want to be fiddling with a bike lock, right? So I was wondering. It ran through my mind, but it didn't seem possible that it was a city bike. Although that did flash through my mind, right? These bikes that are in like electronic bike stands that you can scan with your phone, because that seems like another. I can't even, I mean, it'd be like a comedy movie, an assassin running and then like opening up the app and trying to like scan the QR code to get the bike after you kill a guy. That didn't really make sense either, but apparently that's what happened. Apparently it was a city bike that this guy used to escape. At least that's what witnesses on the scene said happened. And then, amateur journalist user on X apparently was already just scraping city bike data constantly. I don't know if this was for a project or something, and we've got the video of it. But he basically said, okay, there was one bike that was checked out around this time in this area that went north. And witnesses said the guy grabbed a city bike and went north. So this must be the bike. He must have gone here. So pretty amazing stuff that just hours after this happened, and a totally independent, amateur investigator had apparently found which bike this guy had taken and where he had taken it to. Some interesting twists in this. Detectives uncover chilling clue in United Healthcare CEO's murder. Shell casings found inscribed with message. Detectives investigating the assassination of United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson have discovered a potential motive. Shell casings at the crime scene were inscribed with the words deny, defend, and depose. This discovery suggests the murder was a targeted attack, possibly linked to United Healthcare's controversial practices. Thompson, who earned nearly $9.9 million annually, had been with the company since 2004 and served as CEO for over 3 years. Thompson, 50, was fatally shot on December 4th, 2024, yesterday. Surveillance footage shows this masked gunman waiting for Thompson. Despite an initial jam, the shooter quickly cleared the weapon and resumed firing, showcasing a high level of skill and experience. It does seem that he's proficient in the use of firearms, as he was able to clear the malfunctions pretty quickly, NYPD Chief of Detectives Joe Cheney said at the news conference. After the attack, the gunman fled the scene on an e-bike, disappearing into Central Park. The inscribed shell casings, 3 live 9mm rounds and 3 discharged casings, bearing the words deny, defend, and depose, were found among the evidence collected at the scene. Thompson's wife, Paulette, disclosed that the family had received threats prior to the incident, possibly related to disputes over insurance coverage. There had been some threats, she told NBC News. Basically, I don't know, a lack of coverage. I don't know the details. I just know they said there were people that had been threatening him. Here's the video that you're seeing. Again, the guy, whether professional or not, acts with a deliberate calmness that is very chilling. But Drinkin' Bros podcast had a breakdown of this. Clip number 2. that seems to contradict some of what I just read, especially about the clearing of the gun and whether or not this was a professional hit. And it seems now as more information comes out and these, bullets are found with the word denied inscribed, which would be, right, you denied somebody coverage or something. And obviously the CEO probably had nothing to do with whatever particular situation this assassin was angry about, but he was taking out his anger on the person at the top of the company. Let's go down to clip number 2. This is from the Drinkin' Bros podcast, and I think it has some pretty good insight into whether this was a professional or amateur and what the goal was, all of that. It's just a good breakdown, in my opinion. Let's watch.
So he shoots him through the calf at 15 feet. That's not good.
What kind of weapon is he using first?
Yeah, back up a little bit. So the gun is a very small caliber, looks like suppressed pistol. Most of the 22 ammo is subsonic, meaning it doesn't cross the sound barrier. But what happens is the ammo doesn't have enough to cycle the weapon, so this guy's got to cycle the weapon, right? But you see it jams and he's got to hit the back of the slide. 22 is notorious for not chambering, right? So he hits the back of the slide so it goes in battery so he can take another shot.
So that's one of the things you do before you take a weapon out on an op like that, is you fire it a couple times to make sure it's actually tuned up right.
So you don't think this was fired before then, is what you're saying?
No.
Okay. No, it doesn't look like it.
The dude shooting has
rounds,
zero experience with this.
He can't fire the weapon very. I mean, even with 22 at that range, you should be able to pop somebody in the back of the head.
Now the gun is based off his shoulders, which is the biggest common mistake I see on the range. Is the gun will stay 90 degrees from the shoulder, but what you'll see is it's low to the eyes. So his first shot, when he levels the gun to shoot, watch my hand. It'll go down. And this is why his first shot shoots him somewhere in that leg. And
he immediately racks that slide.
Yeah.
So he's either an intentional shooter, meaning he shoots a lot and he knows how to perform remedial action, or he expected that to happen.
If he knew anything about the gun, he would have practiced this a couple times. Now, I don't think this guy's a pro, and I'll tell you why. If this guy was a pro, just hear me out, I would not have shot from 10 feet away. I'd have walked up, put it to the base of his skull, shot it, dropped him, walked off with one shot.
Yeah, like if you're getting paid a bunch of money to assassinate somebody, and this is the CEO of the largest private insurance company on earth, right? He's definitely getting paid to kill this guy. There's no question about that, in my opinion. Then you make sure the job's done. Otherwise, you don't get paid.
If I set this up, here's what I would do. I would find me someone maybe with maybe a veteran background, maybe not, just someone, a crackhead. I would hire him for this hit, right? I'd make sure he had the money, the money would be a chump change of what he wanted. I would make sure he had the drugs he needed, and I would pay him in drugs as soon as he was done. He does this act. As soon as he done, I'd make sure he OD'd.
Really?
Yeah, just push the plunger in,
Yeah. Two unrelated crimes, man. This is how they get away with it all the time. They pay some crackhead, and then the crackhead ODs, and no one can ever connect those.
So I think that's a pretty good breakdown. It's that guy, seemed to suggest that this was not a professional hit. Oh, did they get the pistol wrong?
22.
Oh, right. It was a 9mm. That's right. It was not but it did have a suppressor, and I saw some speculation that it could have been a 3D printed gun. Apparently, 3D printed guns. It's a pretty common problem. How he had to re-rack it, and a lot of people are speculating, about what this might be. Again, I think from the bullets having the word "deny" written on them. Then again, I guess that could be a red herring. If you wanted to assassinate a healthcare, if you want to assassinate an insurance company CEO and you want to make it look like it was an angry customer, that's what you would do. In February, Thompson, the man who was killed, Brian Thompson, who was a father and a married man, and again, as we speculate, as might want to, as we look into what may have been behind this. None of this, I don't think, justifies shooting the guy in the back of the head or in the chest. But we still have to, we're still wondering what it is that compelled this action. In February, Thompson exercised stock options and sold shares worth $15.1 million less than 2 weeks before the news of a federal antitrust probe into United Health became public. a revelation that led to a sharp decline in the company's stock price. United Health Group's chairman, Stephen Helmsley, Chief People Officer Aaron McSweeney, and Chief Accounting Officer Tom Roos collectively also sold over 101.5 million in shares. Helmsley alone reportedly netted nearly $85 million. Isn't that amazing how that works out? How people in charge of this massive company learn that there's going to be an antitrust probe into their company, which you would think would be a negative thing, but because they know it's coming and are able to sell their shares before the stock price plummets, the fact that an antitrust probe is launched actually makes them $85 million. I think that's a little screwy, if you ask me. These transactions, revealed in a Crain's New York business expose, are now the subject of an intense DOJ probe into potential violations of insider trading laws. In addition to the insider trading allegations, Thompson was also accused of attempting to halt United Healthcare's expansion into monopolistic dominance with the healthcare industry, according to Fox News. Adding to the company's woes, United Health suffered one of the largest healthcare data breaches in U.S. history earlier this year, compromising the private data of potentially 1/3 of Americans. The company paid a $22 million ransom to the hackers and estimated the financial impact of the breach around $705 million, according to the New York Post. Law enforcement officials are offering a $10,000 reward for information leading to the suspect's arrest. Again, it appears to be a white male. His face is covered almost the whole time. I'd be surprised if they weren't able to get more information out of the Starbucks visit, or they caught him on security camera ordering a Starbucks. No doubt get the sound of his voice. He may have even used his real name on the cup. You never know. Clip number 4 is an ex-user who was scraping e-bike data from New York City and thinks he found the exact bike that the killer rented and where he went with it. Let's go now to clip number 4.
Okay, we're good now.
Low tech.
What just happened?
So there was unfortunately a very sad shooting in Manhattan where the United Healthcare CEO was shot. It seemed like it was targeted. Very, very terrible. But then I was watching the news this morning, and the police chief in the news conference said that the assailant fled on a city bike, on an e-bike, which is like crazy that a criminal would flee on a bike, like especially a city bike. But I've been scraping city bike data for the past few weeks. This is not it right here. This is it right here where, I can see where every individual bike has been. So I can see, okay, like this, let's see, like right here, bike number like 2164382 entered a dock at 2:03 p.m. and then it exited the dock. Someone else took the bike at 2:13 p.m. At station number 1058, which is Columbus Ave and West 59th Street.
Yeah.
So using all this data, I can see, I checked all the possible rides that the assailant could have fled on, and there were like only 8 rides within the time frame of the shooting. Only one of them was headed northbound through Central Park, so that was, which is what the police said that the guy went through. So I'm like really, really confident that this one ride was where the guy ended up. So he ended up on the Upper East Side. So yeah, I tweeted this. I'm like, oh, that's kind of interesting, and a bunch of people reached out, and like the tweets. Good. Yeah, that's a good question. So I like making kind of fun, weird websites that show data in an interesting way, and like I thought it'd be cool to make a site that shows like in real time like all the city bike rides in New York. Because like this isn't data that you can normally get. Like I had to reverse engineer the Lyft app to get this, so it's like data that you really can't get normally.
Wait, what did you do?
So like in the Lyft app, if I like want to go and get a bike, let's say I like click on this stock right here, I can see that like bike 4370034 is there and like 382600 is there. This is not public data, but like Lyft does give it in the app. Like it's not easy to get from their like public data APIs, but you can see it in the app. So I reverse engineer this endpoint, and then I set up scripts to like go through and check every minute, every dock in New York. So I've just been sitting on the data. I haven't made the website yet, but I have the data at least. So yeah.
What?
Yeah.
Pretty crazy. City Bike leaves digital exhaust that could help track a killer. The police say the gunman who shot an insurance executive pedaled away after the crime. Not a terrible idea in New York City. If you're killing somebody and trying to get away, bikes would probably be a good way to do it. CEO of United Healthcare killed in alleged targeted attack in Manhattan. Suspect at large. Again, this from Infowars.com. United Healthcare CEO Brian Thompson has been in a bit of controversy one way or another from Forbes. Brian Thompson, the 50-year-old CEO of the health insurance division of the $550 billion United Health Group, was killed Wednesday in what police believe was a targeted shooting in Manhattan after his wife said he'd received threats related to his work. There's a picture of him. Thompson, who worked for United Health for almost 2 decades before he was promoted to CEO of Insurance Unit in 2021, was shot just before 7 a.m. His wife said that there had been threats related to, quote, lack of coverage, and shell casings found at the scene had the words deny, defend, and depose written on them. Thompson joined United Health Group in 2004 and was CEO of United Healthcare's government programs, including Medicare, before becoming CEO of United Healthcare, the nation's largest health insurer. Thompson graduated from the University of Iowa in 1997. He has 2 sons who attend a public high school in Plymouth, Minnesota, and another who recently graduated from the same school. Seemed like a generally good person from everything that I've been able to read. He was shot in the chest and rushed to Mount Sinai West in critical condition, multiple outlets reported. Police said the gunman was reportedly waiting outside of the hotel. And, of course, there's that $10,000 reward for anybody with information leading to an arrest. So it's really all we have for now. The story as it stands, I think, is reasonable that this was a targeted attack by somebody maybe who had lost a loved one because insurance, didn't cover, even though he thought they should, and decided to take out his frustration on the CEO. Again, like I said in the first segment, I feel like this is a watershed moment one way or another, in that it just feels like this is the first of what may very well become routine in this country, following what Klaus Schwab refers to as the more uncertain and angry world. Because you understand the almost like number one outcome of globalization and technological intervention in our just everyday life is just like making people more frustrated and angry and making doing anything less personable or human. And it happens just about everywhere. Even just going to the grocery store and having to do a self-checkout rather than having a person whose job it is to scan all your items. Like, it just seems like with every advancement in technology, the gap between you and another human just gets farther and farther and farther away. And whether it's trying to figure out your phone bill or your insurance or whatever, we're just increasingly lost in a maze of automated responses and failing AI. Like I posted the interchange I had with Cash App. Cash App's just like Venmo or something. It's just an app on your phone where you can send money to people. And money was being blocked from my account, and I was trying to use their support system, but it's a chat with an AI bot that was it lied. It just made things up, just said things that didn't make any sense. It contradicted itself. And then when I was like, what is going on? I need an answer. It was just like, and that's all I can do. I'm done helping you. Goodbye. And just stopped. And luckily, I'm not like desperate for the money. It's not like something that it's like a life or death situation. But I can imagine, being stranded somewhere and needing to get a gallon of gas and sitting on my phone trying to talk to a robot, trying to get the money that's mine that they're not giving me. It's just like more and more, it's going to be this level of frustration that people are going to go crazy. Yeah, they're going to crack. People are going to be cracking all over the place. But also it has to do with the just descent of America into the third world nation status. This is a shocking thing for us. A CEO of a major insurance company, Fortune 500, $500 billion company, just being gunned down in the middle of the street. Not what usually happens in America. Happens in Mexico, happens in Guatemala, happens in Sierra Leone. And it'll start happening more and more here in America. And of course, this will just ignite a feedback loop. First of all, they're probably going to use this, try to get gun control back on the books. Because you got to understand from the CEO's perspective, the average CEO out there that thinks they're separated from the consequences of their decisions, they're probably sitting there going, ooh, gee, I've probably made some decisions that people are probably mad at. I preside over a company that have destroyed some people's lives. Maybe they'll come after me. I should probably have armed guards. I should have armed guards, and people who aren't my armed guards shouldn't be allowed to have guns. Maybe I should put some money into, gun control measures. Maybe I should lobby for gun control measures and start supporting Democrats who want gun control, because I probably got a lot of enemies out there and I don't want them walking around with guns. I need the guns to only be in the hands of the people that I pay to protect me. That'll be the mindset of the CEOs. And just out of necessity, they'll start to do that. So, CEOs, instead of being able to just walk around freely because this is America and you can walk safely on the sidewalk, like that'll become less and less true, especially for powerful people. So they won't be able to go anywhere without being surrounded by a cadre of guys with guns. And you can just see how this sort of feedback loop will spiral and will result in just, cartels and assassination as a viable political option. And it kind of sucks. We could just not do any of this if we so choose. But I thought it looked professional at the beginning. I don't so much think it looks professional now, especially in the fact that the guy went to Starbucks. That's an amateur move. I'm not even being facetious. That's just a professional wouldn't do that. They would not go to Starbucks. They would know better. If you're, killing somebody as a professional job, I think you just stand out in the cold for however long it took. I think it's somebody who is not a criminal, but is engaged on a criminal endeavor. That's the type of person that's is trying to act natural. Just as maybe I'll just go to Starbucks. That's a normal thing for a human to do. Trying to act natural, and it may in fact lead to his discovery. I would be very surprised if this guy gets away. I mean, there may be 10,000 criminals getting away with things every day in New York City, including the ones who are arrested and then released to commit crimes again that very day. But this is a CEO. This is somebody with power and influence and money. They're going to find the guy. They're going to find the guy. I can pretty much guarantee it, because they could find pretty much any criminal in the United States if they feel like it. They just don't normally feel like it. But there will be pressure this time, and they'll find the guy. I have that feeling, and I have the feeling that here's my prediction. He is a total non-criminal who lost a loved one and blamed the insurance company for denying them coverage that they thought he was due. I think that's going to be the story at the end of the day, because you don't go and kill somebody over just the bill was more than I thought it was. Now this guy it was like a suicidal action. He was willing to die just as you're willing to kill. So I think he must have lost his wife and just didn't want to live anymore and wanted to take out his anger.
Now, the one thing I want you to do, if I could ask you to do anything for America and Alex and this network and this crew, the one thing I would ask you to do, go to thealexjonesstore.com right now and sign up for Alex Jones VIP Club. It's $30 a month, but you get $40 in store credit. So if you're going to buy a $35 shirt, you might as well sign up for the VIP Club so that you can get that extra $10 and just get the shirt that you want. That is going to ensure that we can fund this operation, fund the next operation, and ensure that Alex always has a voice. They can try to steal his identity. They can try to steal his business. They can try to steal America. They can try to sacrifice humanity in nuclear genocide. But if you go to thealexjonesstore.com and sign up for Alex Jones VIP Club, They'll never take away our voice. They'll never take away our freedom. They'll never take away free speech, and we can save America together. Please go now and be the reason Alex Jones will always be on the air.
Alex, thanks for being with us. It's great to have you back.
Great to be here. Thank you, Allison.
So we're seeing the World Economic Forum just saying outright they want to advance cashless societies. And the way to make it happen is by introducing CBDCs. I mean, we've been talking about this forever, right? But do you think this is perhaps going to tie into the Federal Reserve Bank's FedNow digital banking system, which, by the way, is set to launch at the end of this month? And if so, Alex, explain to us how this is all going to work.
Yeah, there's no question that there's a direct tie-in here, Allison. In fact, Joe Biden's White House put out an executive order last year saying that the administration puts the highest urgency on creating, deploying, and using a central bank digital currency. And of course, the Federal Reserve has been working on this. It's all being coordinated by the Bank for International Settlements in Basel, Switzerland. They've been working on this for years and years now. So the FedNow system that's being rolled out at the end of the month, that's one of the major components in the architecture of the CBDCs. But where this is eventually going, Allison, is they want to completely eliminate cash and have everybody use CBDCs so that everything can be tracked, everything can be controlled, and as the individual at the Summer Davos put it, these currencies can be programmable so that if you've already exceeded your carbon footprint, say, you won't be allowed to buy another steak or buy an airplane ticket or put gasoline in your car or maybe even heat your home. It's hard to overstate the danger of this. I mean, this is the most Orwellian tool for tyranny. And then when you combine it with the digital IDs, when you combine it with the surveillance, with the artificial intelligence that is now being developed, you realize they're building actually a prison planet, and we are the prisoners.
Yeah, we absolutely are. It's just so scary, and I can't even believe this is the world we're living in. But I'm so grateful that you're speaking out about this, and so many others too, to spread awareness. But it's so true. The goal here, the total goal, is just complete control over every aspect of your life. You'll never be able to save money, and your funds will be turned on and off based on your social credit score, which, as we all know, we're seeing the beginnings of right now. I mean, isn't the idea of the central bank digital currency hugely unpopular with the majority of Americans? And if people do resist this, do you think they can still push it through and force CBDCs to be implemented through maybe the destruction of blockchain solutions?
Yeah, I mean, to be clear, there is no public support for this at all. I mean, how many people have you heard say, hey, I wish I had a central bank digital currency? It was a total non-issue for people. And they've been trying to introduce it for a while. Actually, at the height of the pandemic, Democrats twice added language into the bailout bills that would have made your stimulus payment payable in central bank digital currency issued by the Federal Reserve. So they've been working on this for a while. Completely unpopular idea. And if people understood the implications, there would be not just no support for it, there would be maybe even an outright revolt. But what they hope to do is back us into a corner and force us to accept this. Again, eventually, I think they'll roll this out in parallel with cash. And after they get the bugs worked out, they'll start demonizing cash more and more. It's a tool for terrorists. It's a tool for white supremacists. It's a tool for tax cheats and drug dealers and pimps and things like this, in an effort to kind of stigmatize the use of cash. And actually, I'm sitting right now in Scandinavia. All kinds of businesses, including the ice cream truck, will not take cash anymore. But fortunately, in the United States, we have a lot of mechanisms at our disposal to try to fight back against this. We've had multiple states already, including my home state of Florida, pass laws banning CBDCs. Right now, the Uniform Law Commission is working on getting every state to pass legislation that would facilitate the introduction of CBDCs. But I've spoken with legislators all across the country who are not going for this. We saw the governor of South Dakota, Kristi Noem, veto legislation that would have adopted the Uniform Law Commission's recommendations as part of the Uniform Commercial Code. So a lot can be done to resist this, and we must resist this because, again, once the door on this cage shuts, it's not going to be opened again. We have to stop it.
For all our viewers asking where One America News is heading in the future, we would like to introduce you to OAN Live.
All right, folks, that, of course, was our guest Alex Newman yesterday, but he was on OAN there, and I do want to talk about what he's talking about there. The central bank digital currency, digital ID, and what all of that is predicated on, which is the climate change scam. And now there's an EPA advisor caught on undercover video admitting that there's an insurance policy to funnel billions to climate organizations. I'm in studio with Chase Geiser. We'll cover that and so much more.
You're listening to The American Journal with your host, Harrison Smith.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Second hour of American Journal is on. I'm your host, Harrison Smith, joined in studio by Chase Geiser. I have a sheet here describing you, Chase. Chase Geiser hosts Sunday Night Live after the Alex Jones Show on Sundays, and you can find him on X at Real Chase Geiser. And he, of course, works tirelessly behind the scenes to keep InfoWars on the forefront of technological revolutions one after another. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thanks for having me. It's always an honor and pleasure to be here. This is the first spot that I was ever in the InfoWars Command Center.
There you go. Returning to it once again. And, just it'd been a while since you were on the show, and there's so much going on. I thought I'd just have you on. We don't have any guests today. And to talk about some of this big news. What's on your radar today?
Oh, just the New World Order.
Yeah, just that.
Yeah, I mean,
just that whole thing.
Between, it's almost hard for me to sit behind the desk because I'm constantly working behind the scenes trying and worrying about promos on the store and what's going on with the lawsuits and stuff. And so it's funny to sit down and have to talk to the audience about, oh, here's the news that you care about.
Right.
And I care about it too. But like all the behind the scenes stuff, like this morning I woke up and I had, 14 missed texts. I woke up at 8. And I had to deal with it about, what promos are we doing in the store? What, answer questions like that. And so,
well, our audience cares about that too. Can you give us any updates on what's going on with InfoWars? I know our next hearing is on the 9th, and we'll know more then. That's going to be like an evidentiary hearing with like witnesses being called, and they're really trying to get to the bottom of like how the whole auction took place and whether it was legit or not. I imagine that like if they come in and go, look, we did everything by the book. Here's we dotted every T and crossed every I, and here we did it perfectly. Then I guess on the 9th, the judge could go, wow, yeah, everything looks up to code. Boom, it goes through. Or they would do another auction, something like that. Just tell us like what you expect to happen on the 9th.
Well, we've certainly joked about this before privately, Harrison, that the crew gets the same information at the same time as the audience about what's going on.
And that's not a joke. It's absolutely true.
So, at 11 a.m. when Alex Jones takes over, I'm sure we'll know more.
We'll know more, exactly.
If I had to speculate, and this is pure speculation, my thinking is that if this judge were going to rule against InfoWars, he would have done so already.
Right.
And I think that in order to make sure that his gut is right and to make sure that his final ruling is just, he's ordering these evidentiary hearings so that he can cite all of the reasons why he's not going to give force the hearing. That's my guess. And I have no idea. I mean, this just shot from the hip speculation. I just think he could have screwed us already if he was going to. If he was bought off or paid off or threatened or worried about it, I think he already just could have just signed it over and we'd be the onion.
It had to go through.
Yeah,
right. I think that's probably true, but I also think you could have the opposite reading with the same set of facts, right? You could say, hey, he wants InfoWars to be sold, but he doesn't want there to be any excuse for us to keep to come back and sue and try to reverse it. So he's like, all right, I want it sold, but I want it to be, I want there not to be any question and no possibility for objection over this. So this whole process has been 50-50 either way, and I'm the same with you, where people ask me, what do you think? And I'm just like, I literally have no idea. I can give you what I want to happen. I can give you what I expect to happen. I can give you what I think is going to happen. But at the end of the day, there's absolutely no way of knowing one way or another. But
in the wise words of Jim Morrison, the future is uncertain and the end is always near.
Well, there you go. And for us, the end is not always near. It's actually not even on the horizon because, and we've said this a million times, every single day, either we continue with InfoWars, either the sale does not go through and the good guys get it, and we're able to continue under this flagship, under this brand of InfoWars, continuing on in the future and continuing to change the paradigm over and over, or we hop on the escape pod and jet off to newer and brighter horizons. So sort of no matter what, we've kind of already won. I don't want to say it like that, but we're kind of just waiting to find out in which way we win. Yeah.
Just don't know how.
Yeah, isn't that fun?
Yeah, it is fun.
And to a way, it's that way with the New World Order, too. I mean, the awakening is so rapid now, and the awareness is so rapid. And the amazing thing is that, Alex Jones sort of battered down the door to the awakening a long time ago, and we've been waiting for people to follow us in. And they have, and so it's taken a long time, but now there's what James O'Keefe does and Project Veritas, and even that is sort of a silver lining, because I think most of us were pretty upset and confused when James O'Keefe was kicked out of Project Veritas. We were like, what the heck is this?
He got Steve Jobs.
He got Steve Jobs. Yeah, he got kicked off unfairly. But now that just means that it's split into two, and now you've got these two operations going. This is what we need. We need independent journalists going out, uncovering stuff, getting undercover video to let us know exactly what's going on. There's a new undercover video by Project Veritas catching the EPA advisor Brent Efron on undercover video, admitting there is a, quote, insurance policy against President Trump, kind of like Russiagate. This is an insurance policy against Trump winning, saying they're going to give out basically billions of dollars to climate change initiatives, no matter what, if Trump gets in. Let's go to clip number 3, and we'll comment on it. We probably won't play the whole thing. The whole thing's 5 minutes. You can find it on X. EPA advisor admits insurance policy against Trump is funneling billions to climate organizations like they're throwing gold bars off the Titanic. Let's watch.
Now we're just having to get the money out as fast as possible before they come in and it truly feels like we're on the Titanic and we're throwing gold bars off the hatch.
Who are the gold bars going to?
Nonprofits, states, tribes. We gave them the money because it was harder. If it was a government-run program, they could take the money away if Trump won, and because it was a insurance policy against Trump winning. Until the Trump people come in and tell us we can no longer give out money. I do environmental climate policy things.
Really?
Yeah.
It's amazing. Is that stuff is here?
I mean, because I do federal government climate things. Well, I have been doing that. But that might change. But
why?
Because it's tough. So look at the EPA.
When I first saw this, I saw without
amazing. Yeah. So I do, the Inflation Reduction Act. Have you heard of it?
Yes.
Okay,
You hear his voice,
yeah. So I do.
That's the thing.
I work with Biden appointees. The money that we've given out
tens of billions of dollars.
Last year we've given out $50 billion.
Yeah, we can go ahead and bring it down. I mean, you get the idea. This goes on for 5 minutes. It's amazing what people are willing to admit if they think they're going to get laid. It's
disgusting.
It's so easy for the Project Veritas. They're just say that again louder. They're holding out the mic on their lapel, and the people
just the Wolf of Wall Street when they're on the boat.
Yeah,
say that one more time.
Yeah, say that one more time. Yeah, I mean, it's hilarious how open people are. But you were going to say?
Well, early on in the Biden administration, you would see Joe Biden tweet things from his personal account and his presidential account, congratulating and tagging specific green energy related companies. So congratulations to XYZ company for, their new, plug in the Inflation Reduction Act or whatever. And I would go and I would look up these companies and their board of directors, and then I would copy the board of directors' names and paste them in BidenLaptopEmails.com to see how many of them had done business with Hunter Biden and Rosemont Seneca. And it was every time there was at least one hit where they were connected directly to Rosemont Seneca, which is every time I see EPA or anything environmental related under the Biden administration, it's just, I just know kickback.
Yeah, well, and there's so many things. Even just in that short little clip that we saw, it's the mass looting, right? He's talking about throwing gold bars off the Titanic. It's more like, robbing the bank vault as the bank is burning around you, right? They're looting as much money as they possibly can. There's the aspect of Trump proofing. That's what we've been talking about, ever since Trump got elected, and even before, this idea that government agencies are all just trying to put things in place to survive for the next 4 years. So the Ukraine funding, they're signing agreements, 5 years of funding, because they know that Trump's going to want to cut it, and they want to put in contracts and things to not allow him to do that. Of course, I think he can do a lot of that anyway. Just the understanding that Trump is going to cut all of this wasteful spending, tens of billions of dollars. That guy quoted $50 billion, which again just mind-boggling amounts of money. You throw around these numbers, tens of billions. It's if you can create a $1 billion industry you're like world famous. Like it's incredible if you can generate $1 billion a year. These people just rob $50 billion a year.
Like it's nothing.
And just hand it out.
Blinking, bragging in tweets of sending another $750 million to Ukraine and things like that.
Like it's nothing.
It's ridiculous. And you asked me earlier today what's been on my mind. And I immediately went to the InfoWars behind the scenes stuff. But in terms of global political news, what I'm very concerned about right now are the rhinos. And rhinos probably...
The rats. We call them the rats now.
The rats, yeah. It's a misnomer because I think the Republicans in name only are actually what the Republican Party always was.
Right.
Now it's MAGA coming in and there's this schism and then you have the rats and the MAGA,
yes,
right?
Yes.
And that's what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about the Lindsey Grahams and the Kissingers and people like that who are coming out against Trump. Even though Lindsey Graham publicly supports Trump, things like expressing doubt about Hegseth's placement because of rumors that he might have had alcohol on the job. It's so ridiculous to me,
hilarious.
Especially since we celebrate Churchill so much and we know that guy was toasted like the whole entire war.
Very true. Right? Somebody was posting it was George Washington's farewell party. There were 55 attendees, and it was like 64 bottles of claret, 94 bottles of wine, 58 bottles of champagne. It's like, drinking has a long and storied history in our country.
What was the bar tab the day they signed the Declaration of Independence? It's one of my favorite stories from our history. It was like adjusted for inflation, it was thousands upon thousands upon thousands upon thousands of dollars.
Because they knew how to have a good time. But look, whatever. Not defending a guy drinking on the job, but who cares? Who cares? And it's a total rumor, and it's amazing how these people can go through their whole lives without scandal until the moment they're about to be put in a position of power, and suddenly it's sex scandals and drinking scandals and rumors, and they're fired. And it's like, it's so obvious how this is pure blackmail and how people, they want to shut this down, and they just need an excuse, and they come up with whatever's available for whoever it is.
Yeah. Well, and you can throw a rock and hit a white guy that's been falsely accused of sexual assault. Thing is, when it's a Republican, it's a scandal, and when it's a Democrat, it's just ignored. I mean, there's so many claims against Bill Clinton and Joe Biden and Hunter Biden and others, totally disregarded by the mainstream media. Oh, we haven't seen that diary yet. We haven't looked at that diary. We're not sure if that diary is true. That was the narrative there. And then there's an anonymous source to NBC talking about Hegseth. First of all, Hegseth worked for Fox, right?
Right.
So you have NBC reporting on someone who worked for their competitor.
Right.
Already immediately a conflict of interest.
An anonymous, unnamed source.
An anonymous, unnamed source for an administration that hates NBC and the mainstream media, for a population, the supporters, the MAGA Republicans, who hate the mainstream media. I mean, there's so many different conflicts of interest here. Why would we believe anything that they ever say?
Yeah, and I believe people like Brianna Morello, who worked with Hegseth at Fox, and she wrote sort of an open letter saying, hey, you've got these unnamed people. Well, I'm named, and Dan Bongino's named, and like there's all these people that worked with Hegseth. They're like, we'll go on the record and tell you we never saw anything like this. So it's completely arbitrary. In any honest system, the unnamed, unverified, fraudulent, scandalous rumor would never, be believed over the people out there with their names on the record saying, no, this didn't happen. But it's not about what's true. It's about what's convenient. And they just don't want Hegseth.
Absolutely. Well, and it makes sense why they don't want him, because everything that he said makes total sense. And it seems like he knows exactly what to do and what should be done.
So keep him out of power at all costs.
Keep him out of power at all costs.
God, it's just awful. It's just so stupid. And, I get frustrated how people blame Trump for this, because I see that a lot, too, where it's like, oh, gee, it's happening again.
Yeah, he should have vetted him himself.
Yeah, Trump is failing again. It's like, no, Trump tried to get Gates. Trump is trying to get Hegseth. Trump is trying to get good people. It's these rats, these holdovers, the remnants. You call them the remnants because it's like, their time is over. The time has passed. The old Republican way of losing with dignity is just not what anybody's satisfied with anymore. But there's still people just clinging on, just hanging on, by their nails. Susan Collins and Lisa Murkowski.
Because he resigned his congressional seat, right? So he got doubly screwed. Not only did he not get the nomination, but now he's no longer going to be a congressman. Do you think that's part of a plan for him to run for governor or something? Like, I don't understand why he would have resigned from Congress immediately before the nomination was confirmed. It seems like there's something going on there that isn't really explicitly stated.
I think you're right. I think there absolutely is something. I don't know what it is exactly. It could have just been a trick. I don't know. Just pretend like you're going to have him on just to get him out of Congress. I don't even know why. Why do you resign Congress before you're put in the position? Like, that doesn't make any sense to me either. To show that you're serious about it, I guess. But then it doesn't go through and you're out on your butt. It really doesn't make any sense.
Right, and I think they have a special election in Florida to fill the the seat. Excuse me. I think that's how that works in Florida. So I think on January 25th, there's going to be a new Congress member that takes Gates' seat, depending on how the special election goes.
That's so weird. But of course, Ron DeSantis is been slated or been talked about as replacing Hegseth if Hegseth's appointment doesn't go through. So, maybe running for governor of Florida would be Gates' next play. We actually have a video of this. Clip number 5 is Senator John Cornyn refusing to back Pete Hegseth. Now, the report is, and the official announcement was every single senator is on board. Hegseth, there's no dissension. All the Republicans are on board. But then John Cornyn's asked about it, and he refuses to give a positive answer. Let's go now to clip number 5.
Did you discuss Pete Hegseth with Bondi? Did you discuss Pete Hegseth with Bondi?
No. Are you comfortable that he is the right man for the job, Hegseth?
I'm going to let the process work itself out. I've known Pete for a number of years, and I haven't had a chance to talk to him since he was nominated, but we'll let the process work itself out.
Thank you.
Let the process work itself out. Yeah, total avoiding the question.
Senate.
I know. That's what I'm saying. John Cornyn, I'm coming for you. I'm coming for you, John Cornyn. And somebody was saying, about Pete Hegseth. They were like, Pete Hegseth's really not that good. He's got some issues that, you wouldn't be down with. And it's not about Hegseth. It's about the principle. It's about these rats. It's about these holdovers that still retain institutional power and are seemingly narcissistically desperate to assert it, even if it hurts them or hurts their side or hurts their agenda. They can't help themselves. The John Cornyns of the world, the Mitch McConnells of the world just have this need to use their institutional power even when it's in total opposition to their stated, goals and beliefs.
And the fact that they had the audacity to accuse Trump of appointing him or nominating him simply because he was a Fox host, regardless of the fact that it was very obvious the reason Trump appointed him is because A, he's got good ideas, and B, he's actually been in war.
Right.
Right. It had nothing to do with him being a Fox host.
Right.
It's just incredibly troubling and insulting to be. They're always insulting our intelligence.
Yeah, and it's just this, I don't know what it is, this institutional power they still grasp onto and hold on to and won't let go of. Did you see this video? Peter Hotez. This is crazy. Somebody from InfoWars posted it and was just like, okay, this guy needs to be arrested right now. This guy is literally announcing that
we got Zika, we got bubonic, we got all the viruses that are going to be launched on the 21st or whatever.
Let's go to this video so in case people haven't watched it. Clip number 9, vaccine researcher Peter Hotez says multiple viruses will be unleashed on America the day after Trump takes office. Let's watch.
Here's the reason why we need to care about this stuff, Nicole, is that we have some big picture stuff coming down the pike starting on January 21st. Mr. Bloomberg mentioned H5N1. That I'm really worried about. It's all over wild birds on the western part of the United States and going up in the north. It's getting into the poultry. We're seeing sporadic human cases, no human-to-human transmission yet, but that could happen. It's in the cattle. It's in the milk. And that's just the beginning. We have another major coronavirus likely brewing in Asia. We've had SARS in 2002, SARS-2, COVID-19 in 2019. And we know these viruses are jumping from bats to people thousands of times a year. But there's still more. We know that we have a big problem with mosquito-transmitted viruses all along the Gulf Coast, where I am here in Texas. So we're expecting dengue and possibly Zika virus coming back, or a Puche virus,
literally
maybe
just
even yellow fever. And there's more. Then we have all the sharp rise in vaccine-preventable diseases going up because of, in part, the anti-vaccine activism. That's so
it's the anti-vaccine activism. That's what's causing it.
Rise in pertussis cases, whooping cough over the last year, 15 measles outbreaks this year. We've got polio that's been in the wastewater in New York State. All that's going to come crashing down on January 21st on the Trump.
All of that's going to come crashing down on January 21st.
Team to be able to handle this.
Oh my God, there's like you said, so many things about this. First of all, every disease he's talking about that has been eradicated in the Western world for the last 50 years, it's now coming back because of anti-vaccine activism. 100% illegal migrants. The illegal migrants are coming from places that do not have the healthcare system that the West does. They're bringing in tuberculosis. They're bringing in measles. They're bringing in all of this stuff. They don't exist in America. And even, we have young kids. I have a young kid. You go to the doctor and it's like, well, do I really need a pertussis? Like, who even has that? Like, is my kid ever going to get it? And the doctor will sit there and go, well, the illegal immigrant, the migrant population does. So if they go to school with somebody who maybe has a nanny that's illegal, who, brought it over, then they could be exposed. So American kids wouldn't need these vaccines, except that they're literally importing the diseases that have been eradicated in this country.
You have to report if you're taking fruit across the border, but you can be an illegal human being just wandering across. And the crazy thing is, when I was in Eagle Pass, literally on the border, you would see just dozens upon dozens of packets of antibiotics laying on the ground. It was really weird, something I never would have anticipated. And I'd pick them up, and they were written in Spanish, and I'd Google it and look it up, and this is an antibiotic for this disease, and this is an antibiotic for that. And it's like these people are sick, popping antibiotics and swimming over the Rio Grande in freezing cold water and coming into the United States, and they're immediately taking off all of their wet clothes, opening up a trash bag, putting on the dry clothes from the trash bag, and then leaving the trash bag. So they're littering, they're sick, they're dropping off drugs just all over the ground, and then they're just going to some NGO like Border Hope or something.
Right. Well, and then they go to, hospitals like in Denver where they've, illegal immigrants have costed $50 million, and the hospital will close down if you don't have, an injection of cash from the federal government. So it's just problem upon problem. But I mean, that's barely scratching the surface of what Peter Hotez said right there. Because isn't it interesting? Isn't it fascinating, Chase, how for 100 years, there's no emergent, novel, unknown virus. Then COVID-19 hits, and suddenly there's like 6. Suddenly it's Zika and dengue and this new bird flu that's suddenly spreading, and all of these, mosquito-transmitted diseases that just popped up out of nowhere. It's like, isn't that interesting? For 100 years, there's nothing, and then all of a sudden, in 5 years, there's like 19 different diseases cropping up out of nowhere.
Wouldn't you rather die of any of those diseases than live under tyranny?
That's
fine,
an interesting
polio,
choice. Yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah, why not? All right, we'll be back on the other side. We're going to take a commercial break here in just a minute. But Chase, you're the expert. What do people buy at thealexjonesstore.com? What's on sale right now?
Well, we have site-wide discounts going on right now. I highly recommend any of the fundraiser T-shirts. They're usually $50. Right now they're $42.99, I believe, and they really help Alex because we get a better percentage of the profit on those sales. Obviously, the Alex Jones VIP Club is the most important, most powerful way that you can support Alex and ensure that regardless of what happens to InfoWars, we stay on the air. You pay $30 a month. You can cancel anytime. You get $40 in store credit. We're launching things like ornaments. We've got amazing Christmas sweaters right now. Awesome stocking stuffers like the coin are amazing. The posters are a great gift as well. I mean, we have new products every single day. All the deals are amazing. We've got a deal right now that ends on Friday. Actually, technically, it ends on Saturday at 3 a.m., where you can get any combination of 3 shirts or hats for $60. And if you add 2 hoodies, it's only $80. A tremendous amount of savings there. So highly recommend that you check out the AlexJonesStore.com right now, not just because the supplements are amazing and the products are amazing, but also because it's fighting for freedom of speech, liberty in this network.
Yeah, and I think the best part about the VIP Club is you get the access to the Lost Alex Jones tapes. It's the only place on the internet that it's available. The Alex Jones Show from 2001 to 2008, just a treasure trove of information.
40,000 segments.
40,000 segments, and it comes with your VIP club as well as you get a free gift if you order during Cyber Week. They put in something worth $30 to $50. So go now to thealexjonesstore.com/VIP. Sign up, see all the perks. We'll be back on the other side to break down more of today's news.
My fellow Patriots, there are a lot of amazing Patriot gear, supplements, you name it, at thealexjonesstore.com. But we've now added a whole bunch of other really cool items. There are a bunch of amazing campaign coins for InfoWars for $17.76. For the Fight for Liberty on the site as low as $9.99. Some of the challenge coins are $14.97. They're great fundraisers for us. They have a lot of weight in them. They look great. They're great conversation starters, great gifts, great keepsakes, mementos, and you know that you've supported the InfoWar. So I want to thank you all for your past support and encourage you now to go to thealexjonesstore.com, our amazing sponsor that will keep us on air one way or the other. If InfoWars gets shut down, that's okay, because they're a great sponsor. They're not owned by me, and the bad guys won't be able to shut down thealexjonesstore.com. So go there for the campaign coins and so much more today, and keep me in the fight. Thank you so much for your support.
Infowars.com is tomorrow's news today.
You're listening listening to The American Journal with your host, Harrison Smith.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. This is The American Journal. I'm your host, Harrison Smith, joined in studio by Chase Geyser. I got so many stories just from today. I mean, just story after stack upon stack of incredible stories, most of them about the U.S. government. Is there anything else you want to say about this Peter Hotez clip? I mean, he seems genuinely excited about not just that it's going to happen at some point in Trump's administration, but on January 21st. Everything from bird flu to a new coronavirus to SARS to mosquito-transmitted viruses, dengue, Zika, yellow fever, pertussis, measles, polio. It's all coming down. It's all the anti-vaxxers' fault. Ignore the fact that these diseases have been eradicated in America for 50 years and are only making a resurgence because of illegal migrant populations. What do we do with people like this?
Well, first of all, never trust a man who works in an office with the fluorescent lights on.
Interesting.
I can't imagine sitting in a room like that with those overhead lights on. I mean, the office that we have.
We have very sensual mood lighting.
Yeah, it's very romantic. Yeah. But I just can't take it. I don't know if it's because of the ADD or whatever, but those lights to me are it's like Chinese water torture. So
Right.
First of all, there's something sociopathic about that. The second thing is the reason that doctors and academics traditionally wear bow ties, as I understand it, is because they don't get in the way if you're working on something like machinery, if you're an engineer, or if you're actually performing surgeries. Like doctors used to wear bow ties so they could roll up their sleeves and operate and check on people so that their clothes wouldn't get in the way. You're sitting there with the blazer on and they still got the bow tie. It's like an old Ayn Rand thing. Ayn Rand used to write about architecture. And she said that one of the things that was so stupid about modern architecture is that just for the sake of posterity, we keep designs that are no longer functionally relevant. So originally, you'd have Corinthian and Ionic and Doric columns because it was ugly where the column met whatever it was supporting. And so you would put this design to cover up that seam, right? And just make it look pretty. Now our buildings aren't even designed with the same technology that they used to, but we still just slap Corinthian columns on stuff, even though it has no functional reason whatsoever.
See, I'm going to disagree with you because I got a big problem with functionality taking the preeminent position in architecture's considerations. But I get your point that it's
you should start wearing a bow tie.
Well, maybe I will. But I get your point that it's holding on to the appearance of something that once had a functionality because he's sort of playing a part.
Exactly. That's what I'm trying to say. And I think you couldn't even express it any better than that. He is somebody who is fitting into a mold, and he's playing a role that he believes is prescribed to him by the industry that he's in, whether it's academia or whether it's healthcare in general. And that just renders all credibility totally vacant, I think, in anything that he has to say.
Well, and let's just remember that he made this statement 2 days after the release of the final report of the Committee on Coronavirus that said with congressional authority, it came from a lab, or at least that it most likely came from a lab. But yes, it came from a lab, as well as, vaccines didn't work. The lockdowns were terrible. Is there
And his daughter's autistic, I believe.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think in that last image that you showed, that book might be about his daughter, where it says vaccines didn't cause Rachel's autism.
Interesting.
I'm not sure. That's just my speculation.
And that could just be denial. But what does it take for these people to be humbled? They have been proven wrong over and over again, and yet they just go out and say the same thing with the same appearance and facade of authority, even though they've been wrong over and over, and they never even acknowledge it. And even now he's talking about there's new coronaviruses cropping up in China. It's like the congressional report came out 2 days ago saying that it came from a lab, but you're sitting here going, these things are passed to humans from bats 1,000 times a year.
Right, because people are hanging out with bats all the time.
Oh, yeah, they just,
all
exactly.
the time.
You ever met a bat? They're so cuddly. I mean,
everybody in Wuhan is named Bruce Wayne.
That's right. Yeah, they all
hi,
live
Bruce.
in caves.
Hi, Bruce. It's like going to Iran. Oh, hi, Muhammad. Hi, Muhammad. Yeah. You go to Wuhan. It's just hey, Bruce.
They're all Batman. Yeah, no, but it's just absurd. What is it going to take for these people? I mean, and I'm asking facetiously. Obviously, they're never going to admit themselves that they were wrong. But we know that they're wrong. And this is the frustrating part. If you read that congressional report, and I did on air, and
was it bipartisan?
I don't know. I know it was led by Republicans, but they're not uncertain about their conclusions, and their conclusions are carefully worded to seem sort of benign. But if you really think about what it is, it's mass murder, mass psychological trauma implemented on the American people with no justifiable cause. So, like, what is it? Like, so, again, time and time again, we're doing this show, and it feels like we're just reporting on a mass murderer, on a serial killer, and we know his name, and we know where he lives, and we know his MO, and we know the killings that he's done, we know the killings that he's planning on doing, and we're just reporting on it. We're just going, well, Jeff Smith did it again. He killed again. There he is, killing on video. It's like we have all of the evidence we need. When do we get to the prosecution phase of this demand of justice? I really need to know.
Well, it's a difficult question to answer because my intuition, my gut answer, my emotional, impulsive response is illegal for me to express.
Right, yes.
And I'm not trying to, be silly. So, and it's not actually the correct response. My impulsive, what I would want to do is not right. I actually do believe in the cliche that the best revenge is success. And I think all we really need to do is render them powerless. Like, okay, you believe this, you've been pushing this. Nobody agrees with you anymore. You have no authority. Nobody's listening to you anymore. You don't have any placements on cabinets or on boards or in panels. You can talk all you want on CNN or MSNBC. Nobody watches it anyway.
Right.
So fine, whatever. Like, I think we just need to move on and ignore these people who are just screaming from the desert.
That's true for the people that are screaming. For the people that actually were involved, we
the Fauci needs to go to prison.
Fauci, yeah,
okay. 100%.
Yes. Because I agree.
Just some loon with a bow tie, an autistic kid, like
just
whatever.
Just disenfranchise him, just ignore him, deprive him of power, and it's happening naturally. Yeah, I would love. We played the video yesterday of Dan Goldman on CNN, and they play a video of Dan Goldman from a few months ago saying Joe Biden will never pardon Hunter Biden. That'll never happen. It would be a travesty, and just I guarantee you it'll never happen.
Everybody knew that was coming.
Right. Well, they play that video, and then they have Dan Goldman. They go, "How does that make you feel?" They weren't saying, what do you think now?
And then he tried to dodge it, right, by saying, "Oh, well, if the hearing had gone, if the plea deal had gone through," and they're like, "No, your original video was after the plea deal."
Yeah. So I would love to see that type of thing where they bring it up and they go, "Well, here's what the congressional thing said. They said that not only did it come from the lab, you knew it came from a lab, and you covered it up. Why'd you do that? Like, just stick it to them, put them in that uncomfortable situation." And, maybe just our success, InfoWars' success, the right-wing success, the non-mainstream media success is forcing the mainstream media to maybe do what they should have been doing the whole time, which is, holding these people's feet to the fire and asking them the difficult questions.
There's some of that. We see
which
that
would be
with
a start.
Cuomo for sure. Cuomo's kind of pivoted back into some semblance of journalism. But ultimately, when push comes to shove, guys, more people watch CNN clips that get covered on InfoWars than actually watch the original CNN clip.
Wow, that is extreme. MSNBC even more so. 38,000 people at their peak.
Hallmark just passed them, I think. More people watch Hallmark.
I guarantee you more people are watching us right now. I can guarantee you. And this isn't prime time. This isn't, drive time radio. I mean, we're reaching far, far more people than even MSNBC, but there's still this hanging on of
CNN has like 4,000 employees.
Really?
And I'm like, how do they do it?
How?
Nobody watches.
My God, they don't even have a cool online store. It's insane how badly we're beating them. It really is fun. But what about this? And this is just sort of in line with what we're talking about. But I don't even know what to make of this because I don't know if this is possible. It's just a rumor, but it's being reported everywhere, Politico and everywhere else. Gateway Pundit has this story. Biden regime reportedly considering preemptive pardons for several of Trump's enemies, including Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, and Anthony Fauci. Can you even do this, Chase? I wasn't aware of such a thing as a preemptive pardon. I don't think that makes any sense, actually.
Well, I think you can be pardoned before you've been charged, but I don't think you can be pardoned for crimes that you have yet to commit. So I can't pardon you for the murder you're going to do next week. But any crime that you've committed, regardless of whether it's been investigated or you've been charged, I think you can pardon. Listen, I've got a problem with Joe Biden. He's obviously abundantly corrupt. Obviously, Hunter Biden should have faced justice in a big way. Joe as well, Fauci, all these others. But I do fundamentally believe in the presidential power of pardoning. And I'm willing to take these punches of the pardons I disagree with if it allows for Donald Trump then to come in and pardon January 6th defendants and things of that nature.
I agree.
I'd rather see guilty people get away with it than innocent people go to prison. Was it Jefferson that said, or Benjamin Franklin? I can't remember. I'd rather see 100, whatever. It's an old principle that you'd rather see guilty people get away with a crime than innocent people be wrongly convicted for one. And so, yes, it's unfortunate. It's uncomfortable. I think there should be justice in some way. Hopefully we can still hold these people accountable at the state level because the presidential pardons only apply to federal crimes or in civil court. There's still vulnerabilities there. But I think that the right to pardon for the president is really sacred, and I'm not going to challenge that.
I agree, and if I was Joe Biden, I would have pardoned Hunter Biden, because I think loyalty to your family is not something.
Blood runs thicker than water.
Yeah, well, of course you're going to do that. Like, why? It's like when Ted Cruz went to Cabo or whatever during the freeze in Texas. It's like, you don't think we all wanted to be in Cabo? Like, you all would have gotten on that plane if you had a chance. Don't blame somebody for doing something that is just obviously good and doesn't really hurt anybody. And the thing is, they went after Hunter Biden on gun charges and tax evasion, and it's like, these are the two most BS charges you could possibly charge him with. We wanted to see him charged for treason or human trafficking or any of the other myriad ridiculous crimes that he is proven to have committed from his own words, from his laptop, and the evidence therein. So, so when they say, well, this was a political, because in the statement of the pardon, he was saying, like, most people who lie on a gun charge, it might be a slap on the wrist, maybe a fine at the worst, but nobody goes to jail for this, and nobody goes to jail for tax evasion when they.
Yeah, but they weren't targeting him disproportionately for those crimes. Those were the points of vulnerability where they could open up a can of worms to find all this stuff. If you're going to investigate somebody for tax evasion, then you're going to figure out where they made and how they made all their money.
That's true.
I mean, it was a major can of worms there that I think that's the main reason that Joe Biden wanted to just kind of nip it in the bud, because it was going to lead down a road that was not going to make him look very good.
That's true, but the way that they charged Hunter, like, I think was maybe designed to give him this out, where they go, we're gonna sort of overcharge him with these sort of basic levels, so then when you go back and pardon him, you'll be able to make the case.
And then they said it was because he has a book coming out that's going to expose all, and I'm thinking to myself, what is he going to say in the book that we don't have in the laptop?
Right. Yeah, he's going to publish.
And one time I sat in a bathtub with a green light on and smoked crack. I know, we saw it!
Yeah, that's true. He's going to write a tell-all book. It's like, oh my God, there's
gave
more?
Us your laptop, dude.
What the hell do you mean? There's a tell-all book. It's all right here on screen for you. It's incredibly embarrassing. But these people are also interesting. Liz Cheney, Adam Schiff, and Anthony Fauci. So let me just give you the rundown here in case you haven't read the story at Gateway Pundit. Politico on Wednesday dropped an explosive report that Biden's handlers are strongly considering issuing preemptive several current and former government officials, preemptive pardons, they mean, several current and former government officials who they believe will be in the incoming Trump administration's crosshairs. The outlet notes that the regime has become even more panicked since Trump announced he was picking MAGA hero Kash Patel to drain the deep state swamp and ensure those who prosecuted Trump do not escape punishment. These figures include Senator-elect Adam Pencil-neck Schiff, lying warmonger Liz Cheney, and COVID fraudster Anthony Fauci. Again, I just don't get how you can preemptively pardon people who haven't even been charged. And even the way that the Hunter Biden pardon was written, 11 years, all crimes, charged or uncharged, known or unknown. It seems like a stretching of the pardon capability. But if what the congressional report about coronavirus is true, Anthony Fauci is complicit in mass murder, and there's no other way to put it.
He's complicit going all the way back to the 80s. He knew for at least 3 years that hemophilia medicine was causing hepatitis and HIV, and just let it roll. I mean, this guy has been behind, not to mention all the experiments that he was caught doing with dogs. I mean, you've seen the beagles and the nets with the flesh-eating parasites on their faces, and this guy he's like a Mengele-level lunatic.
Right. So can you pardon somebody for crimes against humanity? I mean, maybe you say, well, there's still a possibility of doing it at a state level. Maybe there's a possibility of doing it at an international level and doing a fully fledged Nuremberg 2.0.
Yeah, that's a good point. I want to be interesting if he pardons Bill Gates, but Bill Gates is still, sentenced to death in Kenya or something like that. Right.
Which if justice were to prevail, is not out of the realm of possibility. But how, I don't know. I just don't know what to make of this, because it's like, how would this rumor even get out that they're, planning on doing this? And of course, Cheney was involved in that completely fraudulent show trial for January 6th.
Where they hired professional producers and they aired it on primetime TV, even though it was just C-SPAN with better cameras. It was so boring.
Well, yeah, and it totally failed to get the audience that they wanted or have the cultural impact that they expected. But at the end of the day, what they did was they put together something that looked like a trial, had all of the form and function of a trial, but you only had the prosecution present evidence and you denied the defense a right to defend themselves. That is a show trial. It is totally fraudulent. And even though, it didn't, I don't know, result in any charges as far as I know, evidence from there was used to smear people who are sitting in prison right now. People like Stuart Rhodes, who, the video evidence was withheld that proved that people lied about him and the Oath Keepers on the stand, and yet that hasn't been reversed. So, out of all the things we talked about Trump doing, during his administration or in the first week or first day, pardoning everybody on January 6th has to be a demand. And we should honestly have plans in place.
It was entrapment.
It was 100%.
So there were people that actually did commit real crimes on January 6th.
But even then,
it's moot because the whole operation was federal entrapment. You have people that were obviously federal agents stoking the flames, telling people to go into the building. And regardless of the fact that some people that were just civilians did commit crimes, I do think because of the entrapment, then all the cases should be dropped.
I agree. And that's why it concerns me when it's, Trump saying, if they're innocent, I'll pardon them. It's like, no, they're all innocent.
Yeah.
It was a totally peaceful crowd up until the moment where the police started firing, non-lethal ammunition into the crowd, pepper spraying the crowd, shooting, flashbangs.
They call it a violent protest and a violent riot, but the only people that died were unarmed protesters.
Were unarmed protesters that were murdered by the police. And Jacob Chansley spent months on end in solitary confinement. Think about what that means. Think about being locked in a bright room where the light never turns off, where you speak to no one.
They literally locked him in Hotez's office.
Can you imagine being locked in Hotez's office?
He's wearing bow ties now.
But seriously, I mean, these people need to not just be pardoned; they need to get big settlements from the government for the pain and suffering they've been unfairly put through, and that just has to be a hard line that we take. And honestly, we should protest if that doesn't happen within the first month. That's what I'm like. We need a deadline for some of these things for Trump, where it's like. Because I don't want to be sitting here 3 years from now going, we just need to pressure Trump to, to get the deportations going. It's got to be you got till April 1st to get the deportations up and running. You got till a week after inauguration to get the pardons in. Because these things literally are the signing of a piece of paper.
Right.
And there is no political risk whatsoever. Right. Trump's never going to run again. He doesn't have to worry.
Pardons happen in the last days of a presidency, but this time that's inexcusable.
It needs to happen as soon as he's in office, because there's literally, what are you going to say? The leftists are going to cry about it? They're going to cry no matter what you do. Just do what is necessary. Start the deportations, pardon the January 6ers, end the wars. It's this stuff can happen in 46 days, 1 hour, and 10 minutes, right? It can happen the minute he is inaugurated. It's a signing of his pen. It's legally goes through. They can then countersue and try to reverse it. I'm sure there are maneuvers they can try to use, but Trump has no excuse not to do all of these things, no matter what mainstream media is going to crow about.
I agree, and I honestly think he will. And I know people are very concerned about some of the decisions he's made with cabinet appointments, and there's reservations about some of the decisions he's made. But I've said it before on air, and I'll say it again: we do not need or deserve a perfect president. We need and deserve an excellent one. And I'm going to take the failings of Donald Trump with the good and weigh them against one another. And I think we're going to come out very net positive.
I agree. And I'm also going to recognize that the system that Trump is fighting against is so deeply entrenched. I don't know. I certainly didn't expect Trump to, come in and just be able to swing a giant hammer and knock everything down. I would love if that was the case. I would vote for that if that was on the docket. But he's up against this system that has been slowly and surely insinuating itself into our government for decades on end. It has to be an incremental reversal. Otherwise, it's impossible.
Well, I think the beauty of this term under Trump, and there's evidence to back this based on the way he ran his campaign this time, is traditionally speaking, Trump has been very concerned with media coverage. And he intentionally provokes negative and positive coverage because he understands that there's no such thing as bad press. It's better to be infamous than not famous at all, in the famous words of Roger Stone. But now I think Trump realizes that it literally does not matter what the mainstream media says because no one is paying attention except for people in the media industry, right, and actually in politics. And so with that being said, I don't think he's got as many reservations about making very controversial decisions in the same way that he did maybe his first term in 2016, where mainstream media had more leverage. So he can go out and pardon all the J6ers, realizing that there's going to be a litany of bad press for at least 90 days straight about his decision, and that it doesn't even matter what the bad press says because no one's watching. People are watching Joe Rogan and Tucker Carlson and Harrison Smith and Owen Schroyer and Alex Jones and 24 other people that are independent alternative media outlets, Nick Sorters, Mario Nafals, you can just name them. They're all over X now. That's what matters, and they're going to cover it accurately. And so I think Trump realizes that mainstream media simply is not at the poker table anymore. Like they have cashed out. They lost.
Yeah, and I hope he does realize that, and I think Barron has helped him realize that a little bit with his podcast strategy. That it's really, I mean, that's going to go down in history. But here's the way that the mainstream media is used and can still be used against him. If you remember, during his first administration, it was the mainstream media leaks from the intelligence agencies that got the political pressure to start some of the investigations. So, if they wanted to investigate Trump, then they would leak something about Trump. That would go, wild on the mainstream media. And then the very people that leaked it would go, well, now that everybody's talking about this, now this is a big issue, then we'll take it on and do an investigation. And then you have the political will to back that up. So mainstream media, I think, still has a role to play in this as the industry that manufactures consent for what the deep state wants to do.
Sure, but its ability to manufacture consent, I think, is drastically limited given that nobody trusts or consumes it anymore.
Yeah.
So, yes, I do think it's still a player. They're still going to use this strategy, but I just don't think it's going to work in the same way because nobody saw that leak that went on CNN.
Right. Yeah, hopefully so. Hopefully so because, it's like all they have is whining at this point. Like, all I know is if you have the institutional power to do what's right, pardon the January 6ers, then you have no excuse not to do it. You have the power, use it. That's all that we're asking. And that's why we hate the rats, because they have had power, intermittently for the last however many decades. And every time they're like hyper concerned with like, well, we don't want to set a precedent. If we do this to them, they might do it to us.
That's
and
a good
it's
Mitch McConnell voice right there.
But it's the Democrats they're already doing it to you. So like, what are you worried about setting a precedent? They already have weaponized the Department of Justice. So you can't sit there and go, well, we can't open this can of worms. Like the can of worms is open. There are worms everywhere. So use the power you have to benefit your side. That's what politics is about now. That's just what it is. And it's your fault that you didn't stop this early on. So don't complain that we're at this point now.
I'm an only turtle who says gobble gobble.
I'm going way
Happy
too fast.
Thanksgiving, America.
Way too fast right now. I gotta slow down a little bit.
Incredible.
Can you imagine seeing that turtle crawling toward you? What would you do? You call the police
send
or do you just take
$1
care
billion to
of it?
Ukraine. I would immediately fund Ukraine if I saw this walking towards me. So here's another story I want to get your take on. We only have 2 minutes left with you. Unless you want to stay on, but I know normally in the last hour of this show, you're running around getting things ready for the Jones show. So I understand if you have to go, but this story. Justice Sotomayor compares risks of transgender hormone therapy for minors to, quote, taking aspirin, as she and Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson blast bans as sexist. So there's a case.
We'll take aspirin off the shelf then. Get rid of that crap. What? It's that bad?
Yeah, I don't know if you realize this. Aspirin will make your child's wiener fall off. That's, I guess what Sotomayor is saying.
Yeah, aspirin will make you sterile, man. You'll never have children.
We're kidding, of course. Please don't sue us, Bear. We love aspirin. It's amazing. But no, I mean, yes. The fact that this even got to the Supreme Court, to me, is like a condemnation of our entire system. You're talking about irreversible medical intervention and mutilation on children because they have, in the best interpretation, a severe mental illness. I mean, nobody, it's a severe mental illness, otherwise you wouldn't need surgery. So, like, it's crazy.
I can't think of a single mental illness that mental illness or mental health professionals have cured. Ever. I mean, I'm not even talking about the trans thing. Just, all right, there's depression, there's schizophrenia, there's manic, there's bipolar, there's borderline personality disorder. I mean, you can name a litany of mental health issues, clinical, diagnosable mental health issues. We've had this industry, this field of study for at least 100 years, going back to Freud. They have solved and cured none of them. Why are we taking them seriously about whether or not we should sterilize children forever if they display any symptoms of the opposite gender? Like, your kid wears a pink shirt to school one day. Next thing you know, he doesn't have a dick anymore because the healthcare professionals say that you got to chop it off. But they've been wrong about every other illness. I mean, come on.
I wonder if this is the type of argument they're making from the Supreme Court. It's a convincing one, folks. Chase Geiser, follow him on X at Real Chase Geiser. He's going to go get Alex Jones ready for his show. And we're going to take your calls in the final hour. Stay with us on American Journal. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
Ladies and gentlemen, InfoWars is back on the air. The judge is having emergency hearings. Looks like their fraudulent sale won't go through. But regardless, I'm suing the daylights out of the Democratic Party and the big national gun control group that's actually behind the onion and has now admitted it in court. So we also have backup studios, the Alex Jones Network. Whatever they do, we're staying on air to make sure Trump gets into office and to back him and his agenda to stop World War III, secure the borders, and more. But we can't do it without your support. So there are all these new, amazing, incredible designs up on the AlexJonesStore.com that has nothing to do with InfoWars. Not owned by me, so they can never get that. That's how we stay on the air, even if they're successful in shutting us down. If you go to the AlexJonesStore.com and you get great supplements, t-shirts, limited edition collectible fundraiser posters, and more, you will keep me on the air regardless of the Alex Jones Network. Please go to the site now, thealexjonesstore.com, and keep us on air. They're amazing products. Thank you so much for taking action. You are the resistance.